1 month on the job. Today marks exactly 1 month back in office for President Trump. Here's some numbers. So far, he has issued 73 executive orders. He has spoken with 17 world leaders, held 7 news conferences, and at least 43 times he's taken questions in one form or another from White House reporters. Also, on Capitol Hill, Kash Patel confirmed the Senate voted 51-49 to make Patel the next head of the FBI. Republican Senators Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine voted no. What Patel's confirmation means as the effort to reduce the size of the federal workforce begins to move toward the FBI. Peace plans today at the Conservative Political Action Conference, or as it's more commonly known, CPAC. Vice President J.D. Vance told those gathered peace may be coming to various troubled parts of the world.
I really believe that we're on the cusp of peace in Europe for the first time in 3 years because we have leadership from the Oval Office, and we haven't had it in 4 years.
We start tonight with Nancy Cordes at the White House, Caitlin Huey-Burns on Capitol Hill. Nancy, lots of things going on today in regards to Ukraine, Russia, and ongoing administration efforts. One of the most news-gathering or news-attentive moments is a press conference, was supposed to be a press conference between the Ukrainian president and the president's special envoy. They met, they were supposed to talk, then that was canceled. What's going on?
Right. Reporters there were led to believe that there was going to be a press conference major after Keith Kellogg, the U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine and Russia, and President Zelenskyy sat and talked. There was a photo op, but then the reporters were told no press conference, time to go home. And they were told that it was the U.S. side that decided to cancel it. We haven't gotten any explanation for why that press conference was canceled, but you could probably guess. There's been some tension between the Ukrainians and the Americans, the Trump administration, at least in the last couple of days. President Zelenskyy was very vocal about his disappointment that he was left out of talks a couple of days ago in Saudi Arabia between Secretary of State Marco Rubio, other Trump officials, and their counterparts from Russia. And so it's very likely that some of those conflicts, and as you know, President Trump didn't take too kindly to what Zelenskyy had to say, that dirty laundry would have been aired in an uncomfortable joint press conference in Kyiv. And so we don't know for sure that that's why it was canceled, but it's probably a good guess.
It's a fair inference for sure. Caitlin, I want to go to you on Capitol Hill. What so far has been the Republican reaction, at least among senators you've been able to talk to, about this rift clearly in public view between President Trump and President Zelenskyy?
You know, it's interesting, Major, because this is one of the issues, one of the few issues that you're starting to see a little tiny bit of daylight between Republicans and Donald Trump, at least when it comes to his rhetoric towards Russia. You've had several Republicans up here on Capitol Hill, including especially the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, Roger Wicker, say very harsh words about Vladimir Putin. He even called him a war criminal, and others have had really, tough criticisms for him. But they're also, Major, willing and ready to give the president deference when it comes to dealing with Russia and Putin especially. So you're not seeing these really heavy-handed criticisms of Donald Trump and his approach. You are seeing more criticisms of Putin. And that also speaks to what this body is contending with, which is a Republican Party base that very much is in the mold of Donald Trump in terms of foreign policy. Covering the campaign, there was a very, there was an eagerness among Republican voters to just get this war over with no matter what. This belief that the U.S. was spending too much abroad and not enough at home, even though they're separate budgets, and just wanting this war to end and placing faith in the president. So while you're seeing a little bit of daylight here, you're really not going to see Republicans, by and large, go out on a limb and criticize the president outright.
Nancy, during today's White House briefing, there were several senior White House officials brought in. You asked about efforts by the Department of Government Efficiency to reduce the federal workforce, and you had sort of an engagement with the National Economic Council chief, Kevin Hassett. How did that go down?
Well, I asked him why, according to our reporting, other news outlets reporting, the cuts at the IRS slated to take place over the next couple of days were slated to be deeper than the cuts that we've seen at most other agencies. According to our reporting, 3,500 people expected to lose their jobs at the IRS by tomorrow, and the numbers could go up eventually over the next couple of months to 6,000. And what Hassett had to say was that basically there's plenty of fat to cut there. He said that there are people who are not fully employed with, don't have enough to do, essentially. There are people who've been working from home, and he said there are always ways to find waste. So, and then I followed up by asking, are you saying that the people who are getting fired had poor performance? Because what we're hearing from a lot of people who've been let go at other agencies is that they've been on the job for such a brief period of time, maybe a couple of months, they haven't even had a performance review, and yet they're being told that they're being dropped for poor performance. And he said, kind of flippantly, oh, well, people who are performing poorly aren't going to tell you that they're doing badly. That's what you're always going to hear. So they definitely believe in this mission. He argued this is still just a small sliver of the overall IRS workforce, which is about 90,000. And so they argue that they can still get the job done with, say, 5% fewer people.
All right, Nancy. And Caitlin, very quickly to you. This was not an unexpected announcement from Mitch McConnell, the Kentucky Republican senator, but it was news nevertheless today.
That's right. Mitch McConnell announcing his retirement after having served in the Senate since 1984. It's a very long time. But today it was really notable, Major, because I was watching from the Senate chamber, and he had many colleagues in the chamber listening to his speech today, including several Democrats. And at the end, they all applauded him, and several lawmakers went up to him and, congratulated him, shook his hand, paid their respects. And the first two to do so were Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Susan Collins of Maine, the two most moderate senators of this body. And they joked with him about having to put up, essentially, with moderate senators. And then he joked back, saying, well, I guess I'm one of you now. And that really kind of spoke to the way in which Mitch McConnell has been kind of portrayed now in this Trump era. He has voted against Trump's nominees, 3 of Trump's nominees in this time. Now that he's not majority leader, he has been kind of unencumbered from having to, deal with those sort of things. And he kind of alluded to in his speech today that he has a lot of unfinished work to do in terms of that as well.
Caitlin Huey-Burns on Capitol Hill. Nancy Cordes at the White House. Thank you very, very much.